was checking my phone. I didn't think I'd go first. So this winter, my partner and I went to Puerto Vallarta in February. And if you've never been to Puerto Vallarta, it's a really beautiful, like coastal town in Mexico. And we've gone there probably about 5 times. But this time was a little different. So I'll start off by saying I have this affliction where when I go on vacation, I wake up super early in the morning. I think it's a character flaw. And I had gotten up that morning, and a couple minutes later, my partner got up and he looks out the window and he says, "Oh my gosh, there is a giant, like, pillar of black smoke outside of the window." And it was coming out of a bus. And I said, "Oh my gosh, that must have been the explosion I heard." And he said, "You heard an explosion?" I said, "Yeah, I just thought it was construction." And then he kind of looks to the left and he sees like another huge pillar of black smoke coming up and, off like a mile away. And I said, "Oh my God, that must have been the second explosion I heard." And he said, "How many explosions did you hear this morning?" And I said, "Well, 3." You should know, like, I'll digress for a second. Like, in horror films when like you have like two characters and one of them's the smart one that's like, "That house looks dangerous," and who's that guy in the mask? And then you have the other like dumb character who's like ignores that and like just goes in the house. I used to think I was the smart character, but it turns out I am the dumb character. So after a couple of minutes and a lot of prodding, I said, "Listen, we've got to go like find breakfast. I'm sure it's all fine." And so we go out and we're like kind of walking down the hill towards where the beach is. And my partner is like noticing that there are no vendors out like opening their swimsuit stores, and there's like it's like eerily silent. And he's like, "Ryan, something is wrong." And I said, "Oh, it's just Sunday. They're probably at church." And that's like not happening in Puerto Vallarta. They go to church, but like that's not why they weren't there. I'm not saying that. So anyway, we're going down, and it is eerily quiet, but we do find this restaurant that is like sort of open, and it is not very busy, and like the wait staff looks very anxious. And we notice another big, huge plume of smoke go off in the distance. And I'm like, "Alec, I think something's wrong." So we decide to get up and, go leave, but we have no food over at the condo. So there is like kind of a grocery store, a little mini grocery store that's opening, and we go in and there's other Americans that are in there. And one thing that I noticed from the Americans versus the locals that were in this very small store is the locals were like buying food and the Americans were buying like beer and toilet paper, which I don't know why we do that. I guess we're afraid we're gonna like drink a lot and then like crap ourselves or something like that, like when there's an emergency. But I was like, let's buy like tortillas. I'm from Texas, so I like knew all the stuff to buy so we could like, make some meals go on and on and on. And as we're leaving, they're kind of bringing the doors down, and we get out and we notice like some locals that are sort of running and screaming. And I think a word to the wise is if you're somewhere and you see locals running and screaming, follow them. Just follow. You don't need to know. You don't need to know a lot of answers. Just follow them. I look to the left, and there's a guy with a black hood, and he's on a motorcycle, and he's throwing a firebomb into the OXXO, which is their like ubiquitous grocery store. So we run back to the condo. And we discovered that what had been happening, what was happening is that the night prior, the Mexican government had killed the head of one of the cartels. And the cartels, in retaliation to that, were setting buses on fire and setting stores on fire and, were causing this unrest, which is actually something that has happened before but doesn't happen very frequently. And so the rest of that day, we kind of were in our condo, and we went up to the roof, and we had friends that were at hotels because this is Sunday, and the night before, everyone was out partying and drinking. And my partner doesn't drink, which is a great way to keep me from being an alcoholic. And so they were like freaking out because the hotels were running out of food, and everyone's sort of running out of stuff. And this lasts for like a couple of days at least. And you may have heard about it in like the newspaper here and stuff like that. But we were very fortunate. We ended up being okay because we're tourists and we're in this like condo and we have some food. But there were many people that had been pulled out of cars and assaulted, many businesses burned. And although it, I think, came across as more dangerous than it felt when, like in the newspapers than it felt there, and although it kind of sort of settled out a little bit over the course of the couple days that we were there, it really made me think about how quickly the tables can turn, how your sort of peaceful day where you get up and go to your coffee shop can within less than 24 hours just change. And I realized how much I take for granted here in my home in America about how even though as a gay person I have a lot of complaints about America, there's a lot of great things about America too. And so I really started taking that to heart and thinking about all of the other places in the world now that are going through, where the people are going through much worse things, much worse turmoil, murder, death, all sorts of things. And it just made me so sad and also so thankful, and has just sort of profoundly changed the way that I think about things and the way that I approach things. And I just thought, as my other friends were sort of, everything was getting back to normal and we made it home, I just knew that that would be something that on this trip that was supposed to be fun and beautiful, I actually ended up getting something beautiful out of it. I guess a better understanding of the world, for better or for worse, a more complicated understanding of the world. And we are going to go back to Puerto Vallarta. It's a great city. The people there are great. But I know that I came back from that vacation with a little more than a tan, and there was a better appreciation of the home that I have and the home that I love.
Ryan Leach.